We are learning this morning the big changes announced yesterday at Meta will not affect Facebook and Instagram in Canada. Not yet, anyway. But the huge news yesterday that Meta is ending its independent fact-checking program in the United States and turning to a community notes system that it's going to roll out worldwide at a later date. I want to bring in Marianne, who has more on the program itself. What are all the changes? What is driving these changes? And how is this going to work?
Well, when we talk about the timing of these changes right now, if you ask incoming President Donald Trump, he said that these changes are, quote, probably because of the threats and criticisms he's had about Meta and towards the chief executive, Mark Zuckerberg. But Zuckerberg took to social media in a statement saying that these third-party fact checkers on both Facebook and Instagram are too politically biased. That's what he said. So they're now being replaced by this community notes program, Heather, as you mentioned, which is similar to what is already being used on the social media platform X, essentially allowing users to post on these community notes sections of posts that may be questioned for their accuracy. They can either debunk things or put context on any of these posts. Here's more from Zuckerberg on why this is happening now, saying that fewer restrictions will lead to more free speech.
And we've reached a point where it's just too many mistakes and too much censorship. The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
Meta originally put these third-party fact checkers in place on Instagram and Facebook in 2016. Basically, they were brought in if there are any posts that were false or misleading, and they would check for their credibility, and if they were not credible, they would be flagged. But again, going back to the timing here, there are some who question whether Meta is trying to reposition itself ahead of the incoming Trump administration. Trump was asked about these changes on Meta, and he seemed pleased.
I watched their news conference, and I thought it was a very good news conference. I think they've come a long way. Meta, Facebook, I think they've come a long way. I watched it. The man was very impressive.
So it's interesting. So many aspects to this. It really came to the fore, or issues around this came to the fore just the other day. Meta going the route of X, Elon Musk's social media platform, and allowing this form. But the whole way that people like Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos from Amazon, Tim Cook from Apple, I want to show you this because this was a cartoon, an editorial cartoon that did not appear in the Washington Post. It was pulled, talking about how these tech billionaires are trying to curry favor now with Donald Trump. He's the ABC Disney company there as well. And the Pulitzer Prize winning cartoonist who drew this, a woman named Ann Telnes, she actually resigned from the Post because the paper refused to publish this satirical cartoon. So you can see that this is really causing a lot of concern for some people, this kind of direction. What other reaction are we hearing?
Yes, because there is some criticism of Meta that appears to be bowing down to incoming President Donald Trump. And that is part of the criticism, because not only are they getting rid of these fact checkers, they're also changing the community guidelines here. And that includes lifting restrictions when it comes to topics like immigration, even gender identity. And so there is some criticism there about that from advocacy groups, including those within the LGBTQ plus community. Overall, though, the reaction is mixed depending on who you asked.
Also a big win for free speech. This has been a fight that conservatives have been engaged in now for really 6 years, when the big tech censorship stuff really started. And Meta was one of the worst offenders.
I think that we're in a different era now, and people do have expectations around safety on these platforms. And I'm optimistic, but a little bit cautious.
For now, no changes coming to Canada or expanding outside of the U.S. As you mentioned, Meta just rolling this out in the U.S. for now, making any necessary changes over the next year before they expand further.
Okay, but again, for us in Canada, not in effect yet. Okay, Marianne, thank you very much.